Hi, I'm Terry and I'm nuts about stamping. I'm back today with another Sundays with Sizzix project. I'm going to make a New Year's card with the help of my Big Shot. My card base is 8.5 by 5.5. I've scored it on my Simply Scored at the 4 1/4 mark, and that's going to be my card base. To that, I am going to add a layer of Whisper White that's cut, I think it's 1 3/4 by 5.5. I'll make sure the measurements are over on my blog afterwards. And I'm going to use my Fancy Fan embossing folder and emboss that layer. And I'll explain why in a minute. So I'm going to put the layer inside my Fancy Fan folder. Make sure it's nicely lined up so that my fans will show nice and straight. Bring in my Big Shot. I've got my platform on tab 1, bottom standard cutting pad, my folder with the cardstock inside, top standard cutting pad, and then run it through the Big Shot. Okay, and there we go. You can see the beautifully embossed fans. Now I'm going to bring back in my card base, and before I adhere my Fancy Fan layer on here, I'm going to do some stamping, just in case I stamp crooked. I've got my Night of Navy ink pad, and I'm going to use my Happy Hour stamp set, and I'm going to use the cheers. There's also a wishing you Christmas cheer and a Happy New Year. So you could certainly use that phrase if you hadn't seen the people you're going to celebrate New Year's with. If you haven't seen them for Christmas, you could use that phrase. I've gone ahead and I've mounted the phrase on clear block B. And I'm going to ink it up using my Night of Navy ink pad. And I'm going to stamp it down in the corner, like so. And then I've taken what looks like a little wine glass, and I've mounted that on clear block B. And I'm going to use my rose red ink pad because it's kind of like rosé wine. Maybe you're going to celebrate New Year's with some wine. I'm going to stamp that 3 times on 3 different pieces of Whisper White cardstock. 1, 2, and I've done a third one already. The square cardstock are 1 3/4 inches. So I'm getting my layers together for the front of my card. And then the last thing I want to do is take a piece of Night of Navy cardstock, and I've got my dotted scallop ribbon border punch, and I'm going to punch a border that will be beautiful to tuck underneath. Oh, just another little piece. There we go. Now, what I want to do is bring this all in. The first thing I'm going to do is adhere the Fancy Fan layer on. And I'm going to use some snail adhesive for that. Going to adhere that on fairly high up on the card. And then the next thing I'm going to do is bring in my dotted scallop ribbon layer, and I'm going to adhere that using my 2-way glue pen. So I'm going to bring in my silicone sheet, and I'm going to just take my two-way glue pen. Wipe it down the center. Like so. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere on my 3 little wine glasses. And I'm going to start with the center one so that I know that my other 2 will line up very nicely beside it. Okay, so I'm going to flip this one over. I'm going to use my snail adhesive. There's one. Now if you wanted to add some dimension, you could pop these up with Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm happy with it being nice and flat. I'm going to move this one over a little bit. There we go. Let's try this again. Here we go. There's my 1. There's my 2. And there's my 3. And there we go. A quick and easy New Year's celebration card that you can create at home with a thanks to your Big Shot. For a complete listing of the supplies I used and the measurement for the cardstock layers, please hop on over to my blog, www.nutsaboutstamping.com. While on my blog, make sure you're a newsletter subscriber. Check out my virtual clubs. If you live long distance from me, that's okay. You can still join one of my clubs and I'll provide you with free video tutorials as a bonus. You can ask me a question or you can place an order for the products I use to make this card. I'm Terry. I'm nuts about stamping. Wishing you a very happy new year. See you next time. Bye for now.